Good afternoon, and I have a very difficult task. Post lunch, वैसे भी बड़ी थिन हो गई है, लोग शायद अभी भी खाना खा रहे हैं, तो at the outset, I thank you all to continue giving time to this conference. As in the morning, we have discussed that the advent of IoT or the cyber physical systems in the railways is a given thing. We can't escape from it. The technology will keep on progressing. It will keep on generating data, more and more data, different types of data, and that data has to be utilized in the systems. But along with the progress of technology, the progress of the other side has also taken place, which is the dark side of the digital revolution. So there are now malware gangs, there are international collaborations among these gangs. One creates a tool, another uses the tool, and the third one executes it, and the fourth one asks for the money or whatever after that. So there are a lot of compartments and specializations coming up. To add to this, the artificial intelligence which we are trying to use in our cyber physical systems has also gone to them, and they are using it quite well. And as Ram sir is saying, that they are using it more efficiently because their motivation is very high. Compared to our slow progress, they are quite fast, and they will remain fast, because if they are not fast, they will be killed or they will be out of business. So with this background, I will like to welcome all the panelists here. They are stalwarts in their own domain, but here we will like to limit our discussions related to the cyber physical systems and their security. There are two parts of the cyber physical systems security. One is the physical security, or we can say the ruggedness of the device in surviving in the harsh environments. And the second is the data they are generating. It has to be collected in an integral form, transmitted accurately, and then stored and processed also in an accurate and integral manner. And there may be risks to those data in terms of collection, transmission, and storage as well. And then there are other aspects where this data can be misused as well for some other purposes. So I will start with ladies first. Okay. So I will invite Mrs. Bindu, who has been my colleague earlier in Konkan Railway for almost 5-6 years, to dwell upon this aspect of, because you are operating a lot of now SCADA systems also, and a lot of cyber physical systems at stations, lighting, etc., etc. So how you are, what risks you see, and how you are able to tackle those risks in data and system security.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, sir, for inviting me for the session. As far as these cyber physical assets, what's the topic of discussion today, and a convergence of IT and OT, we feel that more and more, as and when we add all these devices to the network, there does not seem to be any clarity. Where is the difference between these two systems? So now it becomes more important that we address these cyber threats, since early it was only IT. We were only talking about IT, the systems, software, hardware, the communication protocols, etc., data protection, etc. But now it has slowly moved into the physical assets, and that's where it becomes more serious, since it deals with safety and security of our systems, even human fatalities, the damage that causes to a reputation, and various other things. So therefore, we need to be very careful when we sort of merge these two technologies. And since we are talking about smart railways, this is the need of the hour. So that's why we feel that it has to be done, whether you want it or not, and it is a need of the hour. Having said that, the risk that I see is that these technologies are becoming more and more exposed today, since due to the advent of these IoT and edge computing. So when these IoT and edge computing devices are spreading out, then there is a possibility of attacks, or all sorts of security issues on these devices, and also with regard to the communication protocols. I feel that as and when the technology is improving, and with the advent of artificial intelligence coming into picture, as you said earlier, the threat actors are more prone to come onto the stage, and they will be waiting and watching when they can attack, and even go to the extent of attacking our train signaling systems, control systems, and even pick up our passenger information systems and data of passengers, which is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Bindu. This was a first round. We'll have second opinion also. Now I will request Mrs. Haritima, who is with Railtel Corporation and also belongs to the Signal and Telecom Department of Railways, to dwell upon this IT/OT security, confusion.
I would like, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me in this panel discussion. And it's a very relevant topic today. In Railtel, we are more focused on IT security because we have a data center. We are also having a security operations center for the data center infrastructure. But recently, we also added the MPLS network, networking equipments, command logs to our SOC system, and we are monitoring it. So, managing IT security, I would say, is, all of us are doing that, but in OT and specifically in railways, OT security is not taken very seriously, because might be we have not faced any incident, but then convergence, as Mrs. Bindu was mentioning, that the boundary between IT and OT is almost blurred, and the OT system are generally legacy systems having long coded lives, and they are not designed as per keeping cybersecurity in mind. But on top of that, when we add IoT and take the measure the parameters like temperature, voltage, or uh, anything, current, vibration, and take those data to cloud, then IT comes into picture, and the same security measures then become applicable there. And if any breach happens, and the hackers can enter into the OT system, and that damage can be very devastating, even more than what we see in IT system. So it is high time that we focus on OT security of Indian Railways across all the departments. Um, that's what I want to say in my first round. Thank you.
Thank you, Haritima. Now I will call upon another railway PSU, stalwart, Colonel Alok Pandey. He has double the advantage. He comes from a background where they operated air gap networks and OT. Their systems are, not even known to some of their own colleagues also. And from that environment, now he has come to a organization which is commercially trying to use IT OT, that is a dedicated freight corridor. So he will have some very interesting thing to share. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Devnath. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this platform to hear my views. And second, I would attach a disclaimer. All views expressed are personal. They are a summary of my experiences of past and present, but do not relate to either of my organizations. And because my past has already been introduced by Mr. Devnath, I tend to draw a comparison. I come from an environment which was always security conscious. Security was a inbuilt thought process in every action because the implications were life. But when I come to this side, I see a different dimension to the business. There, security happens 24/7 on the borders and areas which are identified as having high threat. Here, train operations continue 24/7. The operational aspect of carrying these many passengers, freight on the track is probably not recognized enough. And therefore, my mind, security applies more to this critical infrastructure than to protection of borders. With that as the background, when I go further, I see involvement of state has increased, yes, at least as far as cyber attacks are concerned. Once the state involvement increases, it takes war to the hinterland and not where you're fighting for pieces of land. I was there in one of our cyber events, very recent international cyber event, and the global world was curious about the Balasore incident because there are undercurrents in the dark web that also was a cyber attack. So the cost of a cyber attack, if Balasore was, and it is best known to people who are on ground, who are investigating, I would only probably pick up from the point of speculation that people are making. The impact is in terms of 400 dead, 1,000 injured. Compare that to Kargil war, 500 dead and about 800 injured. One day, 30 days. So the impact of cyber attack on cyber physical systems can have far graver consequences compared to what we have in active war. Now, there is also a tendency to say, extrapolate IT security to OT security. IT security cannot be extrapolated to OT security for the simple reason that OT is unique to each business case. When you plan IT security, you actually take number of things for granted. Electricity will be available. But when you look at OT security, you have to ensure that electricity remains available. Signaling will be available for a train to move the entire distance. When you plan for OT security, you need to ensure that the OT security caters for signaling security. Very often people tend to get confused between something safety, which is a more operational word, vis-a-vis security. There is a very thin line of distinction, but a very important distinction between safety and security. So even while the systems may be safe, they need not be secure, especially in the environment that IP is proliferating for controls to the last mile. So right now in the first round, I would leave my thoughts to this much before we reach to the second round. Thank you.
So now, after the railway people have spoken, Now I will turn to the other side of industry or the security, industry per se. So I will start with Dr. Ram Kumar, who teaches security as well as is part of a startup where they do implement security systems as well. So your thoughts, Dr. Ram?
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon, friends. As Mr. Devnath pointed out, it's a very tough time. To keep you awake it's a huge challenge. But the topic is very relevant because it says, addressing cybersecurity challenges and ensuring resilient operations. Okay, from the morning we have been talking about, several experts have been talking, several presentations have been made by the vendors as well as the experts who have been talking about. So I specialize in physical security, the cyber physical systems. I'm a certified trained professional from a very infamous or famous three-lettered organization of US. I'm not supposed to say that, but yeah. So the physical security is a very, very important component which is often overlooked by all the experts in favor of the malwares and the ransomwares. We saw some presentation in the morning and all the other high-tech thing. So the basic challenge in IoT or surveillance or security technologies is securing the devices itself. It's a huge challenge, physically securing. Because 2 or 3 constraints are there in the IoT. One is the size. Okay, it has to be small, it has to be easily installable and maintainable. And long battery life, 7 to 8 years is an expected lifetime of the battery. And they are all mostly single task oriented devices. They don't have great intelligence built into it, and they don't have great processing power to install any antivirus or an endpoint security or any of these things. So, and they are so dumb that, if I go and say, I am your boss, he'll say, good morning, boss. And if he goes and says, I'm your boss, he'll say, good morning, boss. That's the way it is programmed. So we have huge challenges in terms of securing IoT devices physically, because it can very easily cross the border. We have seen, I've been part of an investigation where one of the insurance company has asked us to trace about 100 smart bikes, which has got a GPS. And we find almost 90% of them are untraceable, and whatever has been traced, 10% is across the border. And believe it or not, it happened yesterday and today it is across the border. That's the sort of racket these guys are organizing. So IoT, the biggest challenge, the first round of comment is securing it physically is going to be a huge challenge. And we have seen, like Chennai, before the earlier commissioner of Chennai was very, enterprising. He sold all the stranded bikes and cars in the police stations as part of the CSR and installed something like 30,000 cameras across. And you would be surprised. Today, after 18 months of its installation, less than 8,000 have been traced. Okay, so rest of them has been taken away. So there are a lot of challenges in securing what is the physical security aspect of IoT. So I would leave that as important aspect in your mind. You always need to consider physical security as a top priority rather than just antivirus, anti-spyware, anti-malware, anti-ransomware. All these things, endpoint security is important. But if there is no device, there is no IoT there. So that's the point which I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ram. Very, very important point he has taken out. But in that, I will like to add a counter is, Mr. Behra will, support me in this. There, for any IoT or its, the system on which it is fitted, for it being stolen, there has to be a ease of stealing or a motive. In that respect, railways is somewhat lucky or whatever. It is unique and monopoly in India. So whatever is designed for railways, it is mostly not useful outside. In fact, to tell you a small fact which most electrical engineers know and outsiders ask us frequently is, why do you have this 25 kilovolt power? Why not 33? Why not 11? The standards we have. That is the purpose. So that our remote equipment like transformers and ATs and all the other equipment doesn't get stolen. But still, we get the copper stolen because that is not unique. So this is a very, very important aspect because you invest so much on those devices, and if they get stolen or damaged for whatever reasons, it not only hurts us financially, it hurts the system also because the data will not be available and some things will go blind. It is like losing an eye or something if it is in a very, very critical system. So very
I was
important.
mentioning about the video surveillances of the platforms, which is being embarked by Indian Railways after some of the nasty scenarios in the platforms which happened. It's being VSS is a big implementation, and there are good cameras as well as IoT sensors being put in there to count the number of people coming in and all. So you have to be very careful, sir. Yes, your uniqueness is there for respect to railway equipment, but not the commercial off the shelf.
There have been cases where equipment stolen from railways has been refurbished and sold back to railways also. This is a very standard thing. So our RPF is, busy tracking such gangs only. So they operate with the, vendor networks and all. But that is besides the point. I forgot the name. Kaushik. Yeah. So I will go to Mr. Kaushik to give the industry side of this OT security mess.
Good afternoon to everybody. So I belongs to Kyosan. So we are basically dealing with the signaling technology. So we are the equipment manufacturer of CBI system, which not our system, but partially the Balasore incident is, as told, it is partially part of that. Okay, so while coming to the railway system, so it is having two segments. One is a signaling system, one is the telecommunication system, how we can convey the message from ground to the above control centers. So as on today, the progress in the railway technology, so we are our railway signaling ground point machine signals, all our railway gears are connected to the equipment called, let us say, either it will be a relay interlocking or it will be a CBI communication computer based interlocking. So, but in this process, actually, it is a directly wired from the direct field gears to that equipment. So, in this process, there is no involvement of IT in this regards. So, Balasore incident is mostly like in that region only, but that is having some different security of the which we are not discussing today. So, but now since the topic is smart railways, so now we want this information of signaling system to be conveyed to the operation console, OCC. So where the DFCCIL come into picture, so where we are forming Kyosan also having a part of the OCC of Operational Control Center of Ahmedabad as well as Allahabad also. Both we are having almost 1,180 kilometers of in the DFCCIL. Both the OCC we are having. So the challenge of IT sector and cybersecurity all comes in that point of time. So while I am securing our data network, actually there are are two kind of data network available. One is a signaling data network, which is completely hassle-free, IT-free. It is a dark fiber. It will be lightened through our own equipment with a own lighting source. So in that domain, there is no perforation has been emphasized, or it is not possible. Basically, it is impossible. It is a different network altogether where no telecommunication device has been connected. So, so beyond that, now when we are talking about the bring that data to the OCC, then we are having three type of smart our device. One is which are using in metro, which is called automatic train supervision system. One which preferred by DFCCIL, it's a train management system. Another is the CTC system, which is a control directly controlled from the centers, which is having a partial involvement of TMS also altogether. So when I'm talking to these three systems as a smart system of railway, so that relevant field of IT is come into pictures. So here we are using the industrial gate switch, where it connected to the Ethernet switch, where we required a RJ45 ports, and we required a you can say either STM or other technology it is implied. So there, when we are coming to this field, so we have to be more cautious. And I would rather say of course we are putting our server in OCC with our own cyber solutions for to protect them for the outside world. And just to recent my mind, in the field of signaling also, we are now introducing all video based application, where all operating control panels are cooperated through video panels, which is nothing but a normal video panel connected to the with an interface to our electronics interlocking or CVI system you can talk about. So recently we I just wanted to share guidelines which shared by the Ministry of Railway as well as our DSO. So therein they told about the basic things. Suppose some operator in idle time he wanted to see some YouTube video in that video panel where no train movement at that point of time. So he might think it is nothing, I will just enjoy, and after that I'll stop when the train will come. So but that may indulge a lot of security issues today. So it can go for a very large extent possible you can say sabotage kind of situation. Another thing, suppose my PC, that particular video having some process, some lapse or some rebooting took place. So I given any desk control to somebody which is sitting in far away from, let us say, remote control, and I given the pass on to the control to that. With that also, it can be they cannot take the basically root conflicting situation, but they can even they can produce a route also. They can, if they can they are having some signaling knowledge in that remote controller, they can trigger the routes. Although if it is a conflicting route, it will definitely denied by the CBI. And that is the situation. So but while going to the next stage, we have to be very careful as far as IT solutions are concerned, and more or less our technology is going for a cloud-based solution of interlocking. So that I believe the most difficult challenge, how to protect them for the cybersecurity threat. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Kaushik. So now I come to you. The first round, last. So your perspective.
Yeah.
You can introduce.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Manish. I am the Director Sales Engineering for Trellix, and Trellix is an organization which specializes in building solutions for enterprise, critical infrastructure, government, PSUs. And these solutions are specific to protecting endpoints, protecting a network, protecting critical data, which includes PI data as well, and also optimize the security operations of organizations and enhance the security posture. So I was going through the inputs, the insights provided by the esteemed panelist here. And this topic is specifically around device security, and on the first round we're talking of device security, and a lot being talked about, especially around OT-IT convergence and the diminishing nature of that, right? IoT brings in and diminishes the boundary between IT and OT. And the challenges, one thing for sure, we all agree that most of these devices, the OT devices that are there, they are point-in-time systems. These are like designed for security at that point of time, but because they have a longer life, that's the reason why they are prone to or they are vulnerable, and then they are prone to threats, right? Because you can't keep them updated so frequently, unlike an IT system. So we have a challenge. No matter how much security that we put onto these devices, we continue to have this challenge. Second challenge for railways kind of an infrastructure is that it's highly distributed. It is going to be distributed always, and it's very difficult to have the visibility across the entire um, uh, uh, across all the vectors, right? So what's important, or my 2 cents, I'll put it here, is that yes, there is an importance of hardening these devices. There is an importance of securing these devices, but there is an equal importance in accepting that we will have security challenges. We definitely would see breaches. We will see that these devices are compromised. What do we need in this situation is a strong security operations, a matured security operations, right? When you say security operations, this is a combination of process, combination of framework, people, tools and tools and techniques that these security operation engineers would use, and hunters would use. So it's important that how does organization like railways go about it when people have matured, the organizations have matured on IT security operations, but when it comes to OT security operations, it's going to take time. It definitely requires a lot of efforts, a lot of optimization to move to a higher maturity curve in the OT security operations side. So when we are converging both, important for an organization is to first mature both of them independently, IT security operations and OT security operations, and then definitely look at how do you structure it or scale it so that you handle the use cases of the convergence as well. In addition, and the last point which I also wanted to mention is that for very strong framework, situational awareness is critical. As Colonel Alok Pandey, he spoke about nation state threats, right? And there are numerous instances. I was going through a report yesterday, which is EU ISA report, which talks about from 2021 to 2022 how many transport specific attacks or threats that has been observed. And out of those threats, 21% is on the global railway systems, right? And predominantly this has been data related, which includes ransomware, which includes data related threats. So talking of nation state attack, it's very important to have global as well as local situational awareness and campaign related intelligence. We need to know what are the threat actors which are active in this region, which are the threat actors which are globally hitting the railways or transport infrastructure, and that intelligence has to be brought into our security operations framework. In addition to that, the security solutions have to be predictive to understand how vulnerable is the system, the infrastructure that we have. And if there are vulnerabilities, then the security solution should be able to prescribe what are the methods that needs to be done to patch them. So these are my initial views on it.
Thank you. Now to take the second round of this thing, these were the initial thoughts. Now I will ask on some specific issues of OT security. Some points which were raised during the first round was physical security. Now physical security is a area which we may not discuss because it will go into a different direction. These are a matter of physical placement, physical environment, because if it is not there in that environment, what it will measure? So it has to be that way. Now coming back to the operational part of it, there are three main risks. One thing I should make it clear that nothing can be made 100% secure. There is nothing called 100% secure in any IT, OT world. Now, we have put a device somewhere and we are trying to collect some data. So one is we need to protect the data which is being collected at the IoT device. It may be processing something and generating some alert there itself for the nearby operators, like temperature is high or some bearing is very hot. And then it will be also transmitting other data or the time series data to the central servers for analytics and predictive maintenance. So now, considering what are the risks you may have at the IoT itself, in the transmission, and then at the processing level. What are your thoughts, Bindu, about the risks which we may face and what we can do?
Sir, there will be quite a lot of risks, what I feel is. But before talking about the risks, can you give me a minute to just explain? See, the as of today, what as far as I know is that all these operation technology system transaction systems were working separately in silos, and we had IT systems working separately. But now that we felt that this IoT and edge computing technologies have started emerging, and we can make use of that, we have started bringing in smartness into the railways. That's the reason we brought in smart devices and try and get information out of these operational systems so that we can predict and prevent the issues. So now comes to the question of how do we manage all these devices and IoT devices, etc., and also how do we keep them safe? That is the first question. For example, I like to mention here to the audience also. We have taken up a small project in Konkan, which is a pilot project where we are trying to fit in some cameras at vulnerable locations, because ours is the 745-999 kilometers and it has a lot of vulnerable cuttings where it is prone to these heavy rainfall and prone to landslides and boulder falls. So we thought, let's do a pilot for keeping these video surveillance system and detecting the boulder falls on the tracks and then alerting to a central system by which we can immediately avoid the locos and train derailment. So now this is not a simple system where the IoT gives an alert. It's actually an artificial intelligence and machine learning system which has a local system where it first does something on the local part, it does a filtering, etc. And then it immediately, the moment it gets the alert, it will send the message to the local station masters, and then the message goes to the control, and then from there decisions can be taken. Now, here the challenge is that, first of all, the rains in Konkan, heavy rains and nights, days, sun, no visibility. So in such an environment, and it is at such environments that you need these devices, basically. It is not where things are clear that you want to keep the devices. We want these devices because it should assist our loco pilots to function properly. There we are finding it tough now to get these images through these infrared cameras, etc., and build this artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm. But we are making headway on that, and we think we will do some progress. But your question was, what about the security of the data which is going? So we are implementing the IoT message protocols, secure protocols, authentications, encryption procedures, all dealing with the data in and out. And we feel that we will be able to slowly, once the system is in place, then we'll understand what are the issues which are going to come, and we will definitely take care of it.
Your use case
Yes.
is that you have to process the data ASAP.
Yes, sir.
Here itself and alert the driver.
Yes.
The later analysis and everything which you come to
Yes,
central
yes,
place
yes.
can wait.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
right now you have to stop the trains on both sides
Yes.
when the boulder
Yeah.
or something has fallen already.
Correct.
So that is a use case which is not so security sensitive.
Yes, that's the reason. That's the reason.
Because it is more of a disaster sensitive.
Yes, yes.
Which you need to protect.
Correct.
So that is one.
Yes.
And
As far as we are concerned, we.
sorry. So yeah, your use case is more of a immediate attention to be given to the.
But it is a very typical example of an OT.
Yes.
And an artificial intelligence machine learning based system and IT and OT connecting.
Yes.
So that it's a very, very typical thing. And this machine learning algorithm has a very wonderful algorithm which runs in the centralized system, which keeps learning every time when the images go. And then it also passes the message back to the IoT device. And then again it learns. So we're trying to.
So you are updating the field device. Yes. By learning at the back end. Yes. That what is the difference between the. Yes. Images. Yes. And then it becomes more and more intelligent over time.
Yes. So
like a baby learning.
Correct, like a baby learning, very typical baby learning actually. But then this constraints, physical constraints, all those what we were talking about for any OT is a very, very typical area which we are facing, but we need to involve these things to bring in some smartness into our railways. Only then we will bring in productivity and efficiency. That's my opinion.
Yes. Thank you, Bindu. Now, the same question from Haritima. What are the risks you see in your signaling system, capturing data and passing it on like your data loggers or CBI, they call it? CBI is computer-based systems. They are operating at the local level, at the station level, and they have to also update the central control and other places. What are the risks and possible solutions you think of?
Yeah. So when IoT sensors are capturing data, then the data that is transmitted to the cloud, the data has to be encrypted, and the whatever security in cloud is required, that has to be there. And in train management system that you were speaking, we have the big screen monitors, all IT devices, computer based, computers are there, and operators are operating them. So the access control there is very, very important. And they shouldn't, like he was mentioning that in free time he could watch some video. Those things, it shouldn't be allowed at all in a working environment, and especially in the operations center. Or like we are also running NOC and CNOC, and in our telecom network and in our data center. So there's no internet connectivity there. We don't provide, and we don't have any provision to install any outside device like pen drive or something like that, because these also can bring viruses and compromise your system, and the compromised system through that your network can get compromised, and communication with CNC can happen. So I think first of all, the risk assessment is very important. Uh, Risk assessment, like you said, we cannot do 100% security. But what all risks are going to affect our system badly, those have to be prioritized and should be taken care by adding appropriate security controls. Then awareness at the user level, so that they handle the systems, they follow cyber hygienes. And when we do automation also, we bring the facility of remote access. Then that remote access also can be become vulnerable, and hackers can get access to that. So those things are to be taken care of, and security controls need to be applied, and at regular intervals we also need to do audit the way we are doing in IT system. There also in signaling and train control system we need to do regular audits, and when we also allow vendors to enter into our system when there's a big failure or at the time of installation, where whether these vendors are following security practices, that has to be seen also. And one thing that in signaling we were taught that our design, we were taught it is there that our design is fail safe, and but there was no talk about cyber security because signaling operates in a closed system. But when there are interconnections and integrated system and centralized monitoring, then it doesn't remain closed anymore. So then cybersecurity comes into picture, and that is why security by design concept should be adopted, and there has to be clause also of cybersecurity while procurement of signaling system. These things, should be there. So it is not a very mature thing, but railways worldwide are also doing, and we should try to keep pace with them. Uh, we should not wait something to happen full-fledged at one place or one country and then adopt here. We should also do our R&D and adopt cybersecurity measures in our signaling and telecom system. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Haritima. Now I turn to Alok. Alok, you must have seen very, very strict systems in the army, and but you can't apply those same principles in the civilian world, as we call it. And moreover, here the in the operational side, the response has to be quick and it has to be human centric response also. Our operators are not army soldiers who work in a command. They have their own issues and all that. Because something which came out in all their talk is the people part is very, very important. You can have all the best technologies, best data collection, best security, but some person will fail it, our operator and all that. And we can't have, watch over every human being all the time. So what are your thoughts on controlling the risks which we have in the civilian OT?
Thank you, sir. The risks remain common. The risks do not change. However, how we can mitigate them is एक तरफ हुक्म चलता है. How we can mitigate them is by enforcing role-based controls. What privilege accesses the person has. So when you implement these two, major portion of the threat is actually taken away. How much he can do and who can do what. Rest thereafter is a function of awareness and new attack vectors which are coming up day and night, which I would probably discount, which the system and the processes have to factor in. So once we make our processes resilient, the impact of error of human factor reduces. So that is something which I would put to address the question directly. However, other issues which are very specific to OT is that I do not know how many people over here are with inactive operations of railways. But if I would like to have a show of hand of how many people know what are the assets, can claim with certainty that this is the asset in my area of operation with respect to OT.
Basically, you are asking a question about visibility. Do you know what is operating where? That's what
I'm basically coming to the attack surface.
Yeah.
You are wanting to protect yourself, but from where all can you get attacked? You do not have the asset visibility or even the network visibility in totality, and either in silos or aggregated at one place where you can say this is my attack surface. If you do not know your attack surface, how do you prepare a mitigation plan? So there has to be a mechanism where the technology supports it, people support it, process support it, but you have to have your asset visibility and attack surface determination. Once you have done that, you will come, once you have done that, there is a huge temptation nowadays, given the various kinds of analytics tools that are available, to do this IT-OT convergence. I heard from the director from Trellix, and there are good business cases. I would not undermine the use cases, but I remain a fan of air gap. Operational network should never, bold, capital, underlined, italic, everything that you have, never be merged with networks which have internet on them. And why I said so, today my conviction of reiterating this is very high. I have done it in the past, but my conviction of reiterating this is very high, because you have one example of Stuxnet, of an IT-OT breach because of a human error and a planned state attack. In the last 1 year, because of these temptations to probably maximize or show greater ROIs on the investment that you do in your IT and cyber systems that you have decided to integrate, in the last 1 year itself, in India itself, there have been more than 300 attacks. So this temptation is very tempting, but there is a need to resist it. There are large number of people who propagate artificial intelligence, machine learning. They're very good tools to have. But have we done the fundamentals right first? Have we done the basics first? AI, ML tools are tools where you want to offload your entire functioning to an algorithm. Do your basics first. And I cite this example very often. Those who are in the fraternity would know, in last 1 month, CERT has given 1,70,000 IOCs and URLs as malicious. Have we blocked them in our network? There's a basic that one can do. So we can have all the systems, all the AI ML solutions available, but if we do not provide the necessary inputs which safeguards us from the possible threat, it is of no use. Lastly, I would want to touch, again coming back to that point of view, we need not discount ourselves because we are in a different uniform. If you are doing something operational which has ramifications in terms of life and death, as well as revenues, as the business would like to call it, there is no reason why you should not be business as well as security conscious. So being not security conscious cannot be an excuse for letting certain things happen which are inescapable. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok. Adding to Alok's, advice is that he has advised, because military is like that. They want to be safe from all external pressures, including political sometimes. And so that is quite natural for him to suggest that kind. But given the civilian, compulsions of operating everything at a lowest cost, where you want to even sometimes remove the human behind the gun, as they say. If it sees something unusual, fire it. So that kind of situation, like we want to have driverless trains or, automatically operating escalators. When humans come, it starts, otherwise it conserves power. That is also a need to, do a lot of things. So last year I attended a conference held by Israeli embassy. And as you all know, Israel is a global leader in security, cyber physical security systems, including for the army and defense. They are very good in even recognizing a large fish from a vessel, a small fishing boat. That kind of, distinction they can make. There I learned that they have not merged, but they have bridged their IT OT system through a term called data diode. So that is one term which you all should put into your vocabulary now when you are, trying to interface between IT and OT or OT to IT, because OT will remain slightly backwards, I will say, because it has very hardened operating systems which cannot be patched now and then. And IT side is very fast moving as usual. So what they do is they put data diodes. There are companies which make only OT specific data diodes, and they will only transmit data one side. So from IT side, you cannot push anything onto the OT side and damage it. But again, it comes at a cost of you can't control or you can't update that OT remotely. You have to go to each OT system or IoT system and update them physically, because nothing can go from this side to that side. This was my one incident I recollected.
Before you go to the professor, since you touched about autonomous vehicles and Israeli event, I was again in the Cyber Week last week, and two very interesting cases that they are discussing which has impact on cyber physical. Tesla autonomous vehicles. They have been meeting with very frequent accidents. Reasons, and especially when they are near ambulances and police cars. Looks not only we are afraid, even Tesla is autonomous driver is also afraid of the police car or ambulance. Any guesses, anybody? Any guesses? I'm sorry, I'm trying to open it, but any guesses, anybody, why it could be? No siren. Any artificial learning, artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithm runs on a confidence level. You see these flasher lights which are there, that these lights reduce the confidence level from 99% to 47%. The vehicle refuses to identify a police car and an ambulance as an obstruction on the road. It goes ahead and banks in it. Artificial intelligence, machine learning for you. Tesla has been doing this for quite some time. So that artificial intelligence, machine learning for you as on today. So, and one very quick, how many cars do you think need to be gridlocked or locked on the traffic roads of Delhi to bring entire traffic of Delhi to a standstill? 17. 17 at critical junctures. If you bring down 17 autonomous vehicles at critical junctures, entire Delhi comes to a standstill. It's all clogged up. Everything gridlocked. So these are the things which are. I'm not anti-technology. What I'm saying is keep man in the loop. When such kind of things happen, there should be possibility of these events to be taken over by person who has got more logical thinking. There are many other examples. Projection of a human being on the road, the car stops. It's a digital projection of a human being, the car stops. You project a speed limit on a tree, the car stops. So there are limitations to the sensor, or where it is far more efficient. These things have to be factored in when we are actually looking at. So what I'm coming to is use technology, but make it relevant to your business case. My apologies for taking your time, sir.
Professor.
Yeah. Just since many people mentioned about it, that's a point which I had noted down as well. See, most of the IoT devices worldwide, not the OT part, IoT devices, ultimately is controlled by a mobile, the so-called smartphone with all unsmart features. That's the way I would say it with respect to security. Okay, the unsmart is with respect to security. So what happens is we are all actually carrying a device which we don't even know 80% of what is inside with respect to security. We did a random check in one of the workshops which we are having in the vibrant Gujarat. 100 handsets were collected randomly and we did a forensics of what is inside, you'd be surprised 84% of the phones had more than 60 spywares and malwares which you don't know it was inside. So if you are going to integrate the whole thing, which a lot of technology, I don't know why it was not touched upon by the experts. BYOD, bring your own device, is common. And when you are getting into the operations with bring your own devices, especially the smartphones, the vulnerabilities go up. So what is the solution for it? I think Madam Bindu as well as Haritima Madam touched upon very small way as a bypassing comment. It is actually lot of people think security is technology. No, it is actually people. People first, then process, and finally technology. And invariably, all the organizations do the ulta. They put huge money on technology with very little process and very little on people. Absolutely nothing on people. So there's a new concept which is evolving, which is called the human firewall, which is essentially the people orientation. If you have a cyber aware, like Madam mentioned, cyber etiquette, cyber hygiene following workforce, you don't need great technologies because they will prevent half the attempts of the attacks on your company. So I don't know how many of you are aware, IIT Madras, where I teach cybersecurity, as well as IIIT Bangalore has been doing a human service. But I would not say that they are doing a great service because they have not popularized their courses. We have developed some very good certification tracks, which I want to just make you aware. Of course, Haritima ma'am has been sending regularly people to our certified cyber warrior course. Railtel has over 20 people who have been certified by IIT Madras as a certified cyber warrior, who are part of their SOC and NOC operations. Like that, DRDO, MHA, e-governance of Government of Karnataka, a lot of banks. And recently we did a complete orientation of almost 275 CISOs of Damodar Valley Corporation and NTPC, where we had same point what he mentioned, never ever connect or converge the IT to OT. Keep it there. Don't have the temptation. That was my message to them. So that is something which he reiterated. But what I'm trying to say is, please invest on people and use the certification tracks. We have secure coding, which we are now talking to Devnath sir for the CRIS people. We have an IoT security track, OT security track, as well as certified cyber warrior, certified cyber engineer, computer and network security. All these things are IIT Madras Chapa certificate, which is very well structured and very popular. And the good part of it is 70% is hands-on, and we have set up a cyber range. Like you have a shooting range to practice your rifle shooting. We have a cyber range where you have live incidents to tackle both attack and defense. So please utilize, and my humble submission to this entire program is focus on people. You will solve most of your cybersecurity problem, whether it is IT or OT, it doesn't matter. People matter a lot. So people are the thing. Finally, my very popular statement I make to my students at the college is, if internet is not secure, how can be Internet of Things be secure? So as far as possible, be aware and be alert and prevent any of the eventual damages that can occur to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ram. A very, very important advice. We continuously forget the people, and in these such seminars, we only talk about technology because the vendors love to talk about technology. So, but technology is important, but operating that technology is the people. So they are the most, the critical or the weakest link in this whole cybersecurity chain of anything, OT, IT, or whatever. So now,
just start with the professor's word only. So we should invest more in the people first. Because just before my first sessions, I told that signaling system basically is foolproof system. But the Balasore incident, it is just starting from that people itself. So where we are using that same circuit of point machine for more than 60-65 years, same has been converted into electronics interlocking technology. Same thing output, which input of basically the cyber this computer based interlocking, which has been received in a perforated manner by a personal by a maintenance error. So that is the way how the things, it is a foolproof signaling system, fail-safe system, has been completely it is vandalized with the people's maybe it is not a intention, or his intention may be good or bad or whatsoever it is. So that is under debate, and that we cannot conclude. But starting to that, when I am talking this signaling system to be connected to the control center, so our responsibility as a vendor as well as a users are much more high becomes, because as madam also told that, so while using in operating control center, so there our operational people's requirement goes every day increase and increase. So they told why it cannot be happen, why it cannot be linked with that. So they are having 1,000 question, your technology is outdated, so we can link it to anything. So now the things, I am just giving one common example. Now we are having a system normally commonly written in all the specifications. So any failure happen, it should be come to your SMS. So when you did that in a SMS things, so there is a security, of course, before that. But when we are getting connected more and more to the internet, because SMS cannot go without an internet system. So we are again entering to a domain where something can open up tomorrow. So if not today, somebody can find something else tomorrow to give a, that may be a threat for us. So but at the same time, we need to have upgrade our system as a smart system. So we cannot we have to accept basically the challenge which we are facing today. So basically the metro system, actually while technology we have to choose basically the based on the geographical terrain. While I am choosing a technology for Indian Railway, so I should have some limitation of our things in my mind. So I am asking a system of ARS, automatic route setting, which is basically preliminary meant for the metro system, where everything is in viaduct, nobody can access that. But while I am implementing the same thing in the in our specification through Indian Railway, which is having a no barrier, anybody can access to the rail. So we can give a automatic route setting by any means of this CTC system and by TMS CTC and these another peripheral systems where the timetable has been implied. So but the question is it required? So because we can have we when we are talking about this particular requirement, we may have a long route creating CTC control systems also in place of that, because it can be have parallel systems, but it is not a technological because when we are choosing a system which is anyway vulnerable to the operational system as a whole. So if I set a route of based on the automatical route setting device 10 kilometer ahead, so it definitely have, you don't know the 10 kilometer what scenario can happen in the Indian Railway scenario. But at the same time, it is fully applicable in the metro. So metro it is perfectly fit for. So but the same technology, if you apply it in, I'm just giving a comparison. So where we can draw that our barrier for the while choosing a technology. So with that, I just wanted to conclude my thought
Yeah,
process.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kaushik.
Thank you.
Now on to Trellix, but with some comments on that, with very important point he has brought. One technology, one shoe doesn't fit everyone. What is good for a metro system, which is a closed, mostly underground viaduct or even overground, it is a very well protected, separated system. So some technology or OT systems can work there very well. There is, of course, the threat of theft in the cities, but in a rural hinterland where long block sections are there, such technology may not be even required, maybe, because you have few trains in a day, like in the eastern, northeastern part and all that. And you should be applying such technology to only heavy density routes where every 10 minutes a train is running and the costs are justified. So indiscriminate use of OT also creates a security challenge, because everything has to be secure. Whatever you put, even if only 2 trains are running in that route, but if it is generating X amount of data, I have to collect that data and secure it. So there has to be what Haritima ji very rightly pointed out, that we have to see where it is required or the people, properly trained people, can suffice, then we should use them. And where the automatic technologies or automatic IoT can work very safely, then they should be used there. So now to Trellix on the security part.
Yeah, so start with one of the use cases which Ms. Bindu ma'am had mentioned about, which was unique, right? Because this use case is specifically is a two-way communication. I mean, generally, when we talk of IT OT convergence, as per NIST framework, as what you mentioned about diode, it's called as one-way. In general term, it's called as one-way gateway, data gateway, and that's part of the NIST framework now. But and I was thinking, like, what's the use case that would be which would require to remove these one-side gateways. And one of the good use cases I got it where you're doing an analytics and then you're feeding it back to the IoT systems, right? So that's also a use case. But yes, there's growing discussions as to IT and OT convergence. Why should we have that IT OT convergence? There are use cases, but there are challenges, and those are security challenges, right? And one of the topic which you started was about data, risk to data. I mean, coming on to that specific topic, it's going to generate huge volume of data and huge volume of critical data, confidential data, right? So how do we protect that data is an important point. When we are generating this data, this will be for analytics. This would be for a lot of purpose. And very important step is to have a complete visibility of data, because there would be threat actors who would be behind this critical data, because it would give them good insight into how the railway systems are, how they are functioning, and how the control mechanisms are. If it's an automatic train control system, it gives a lot of information about that as well. So visibility of data would require, or a comprehensive data protection, I would say, visibility plus data protection would require very robust data classification engine as well, a framework where you would be able to classify specific data saying this is critical, this is very critical, and depending upon the classification rules, appropriate access of this data to be provided only to specific user. Give data to someone who needs to use it for sure, rather than opening this data to everywhere, right? Now, yes, also important is that the context of this data has to be brought into cybersecurity also. We need to prioritize, there are multiple threats, right? Security operations can't look at each and every threat on high priority. But if there is a threat which is targeting a specific kind of data and which is sensitive, that should be prioritized over other security threats. That integration is very critical, that you bring context of data into security operations or into threat analytics. And hackers are behind this data, right? So we need to have a robust system to protect against these data theft techniques. that includes robust security solutions. I mean, I know that OT security is limited. We have limited access control mechanisms through which we can secure it. But there are solutions available which looks at rogue processes being spin up, some rogue ports being open up, keeping a close watch on these IoT devices. How are they communicating? And very strong visibility solutions where you would be able to monitor all these IoT devices across your network, across your infrastructure, and put appropriate controls as in required. Yeah, last point also, which I wanted to mention was that there are apprehensions again. There are apprehensions here, but this takes me back to 15 years back when Dr. Gulshan Rai was heading CERT in, and I was a young cybersecurity professional, and I was like, we need to secure, we need to have a design which is very secure, and we need to restrict certain. These are the discussions that was happening, and Dr. Rai mentioned one thing, that security is important, but not at the cost of scaring people for technology adoption, right? And
Yeah.
with that note, I
thank you,
conclude.
Trellix, also. The last thing which he said was very, very important. Security is for the business, not the other way around. You can't stop the business in the name of securing everything everywhere. So because the time is up, so I can't have any more rounds. I don't have a button also to press to escape to exit. It says escape to exit. I would have wanted to do that, but can't. So I will put some summary points. Collecting from all who said what, I don't remember, old man. One is, first of all, your need. Whether you really need or you are doing it for fad, isn't? Metro systems being fixed onto long mainline systems. So you have to first do a need analysis, whether you need it or not. That kind of OT, IoT, or whatever intelligent system you want to put there and collect data from. Second is, then once you are going to put them, these are all pre-design phases. We have not come to the design phase yet. Is the risks, like physical security risks, IT security risks, OT security risks, all these things have to be thought for before you go to get a vendor to install IT OT system. Third is the data you are collecting. In the morning, Dr. Vyas said vendors are not giving all data in raw data and all those things. I think there has to be some caution. What we will do with that data, we have to think first. Instead of collecting everything and anything and then trying to secure it, it will be a huge cost without any output, and ultimately the finance guys will shut you down. So you have to be clear, at least in the beginning, that what you want to collect minimum first. You can always increase the things as you go on with your analytics and all that. And you have to also think that what is immediate operational data to be alerted to the operators, and what is the analytics data which can go later, which doesn't have that much of criticality because it is for trend analysis. Third point was, which was echoed by many, is that the access control, that means the people part, has to be very, very strong. People have to be trained, new people coming in, old people retiring. So the continuous training programs with academic institutions are very, very important. We have to train our people in the zonal training schools also about all these OT, IoTs. so that when they come on the job, they are not, because there are no teachers in our remote stations and remote divisional control rooms. They have to get into the job of doing the things. So there has to be a proper training and refresher programs for our people to, get aware of all these new technology systems. Then one technological solution, one-way gateway or data diode or whatever you may call, it may be all the time one way, but sometimes the other way also for patching the IoT, because you cannot patch thousands and thousands of IoTs by visiting all of them. It has to be a solution. And then awareness is we have discussed. And last but not the least is the visibility is the most important. What you are putting, you should not forget about it after fixing it there. There has to be a mechanism to take care of that IoT in terms of updates, in terms of maintenance, in terms of calibration, and then in terms of patching also, because now it has some software and intelligence as well. So that's what. Anything to add? Yes. So thank you all for bearing us for so long. It was one of the longest sessions.